Earlier this year, I got invited to an invite-only chance to purchase raffle for whiskey at one of my favorite stores. So there's a number of different stores that are out here in the Northwest, and very few of them do any form of raffle or lottery, whatever you want to call it, but basically a chance to purchase option to get a lot of crazy allocated product. And many of the bottles behind me are actually ones that were featured at this particular lottery. And the key thing I want to put out there is this is invite only. So you had to be relatively well known by the staff to get on this list. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you spend a ton of money there. It might mean that you come in and do what I do. This store is, there's two different stores actually that are under the same owner. I go to one called Proper and Earnest, which is in Woodinville, Washington. Phenomenal store. If you ever get a chance, if you're in Washington, check them out. They do a number of really solid barrel picks, and that's the reason why I go there. The manager at the Woodinville store, who has a really similar palate to mine, we agree on a lot of things when we're talking about whiskey. So consequently, when he does a barrel pick, I know I'm going to like them. There are very few that I've had that were ones where I was like, that's not really my speed. Almost every one that they've put out that I've tried has been absolutely delicious and worth picking up. So most of the time when I drop in, I'm looking to see what new barrel pick they have. Well, for the first time I've ever been there, I've had a few friends that have gone to multiple there. I got invited to their first of the year raffle, and this is when a lot of like the BTAC stuff starts showing up. And here's a quick video to show you just what was available at this lottery, because it is pretty wild. Yeah, did you see that? So all the Pappies, BTACs, Four Roses, Al Young, Mr. Sam, a number of different older things. There was a Russell's Reserve 2003. The owner of the two stores, a gentleman named David, he's really cool. He has kind of like a vault of stuff that he keeps aside, and they build some stuff up for the raffles. They definitely do put stuff out pretty regularly between the two stores. He also brings some really cool stuff in every once in a while and makes them available at these raffles. Now, one thing that is really important to note is that it's nigh impossible to get stuff at MSRP when it comes to this kind of allocation in the state of Washington. One, we have fairly high taxes, and that's just something you're going to have to pay, but for some of this like pretty rare stuff, it is really common for stores out here to have them at or above what is secondary pricing on the kind of like trade market that is out there. I have the list. I won't go over pricing because I think that's not the part of the comments that I think is fun, because a lot of people who got their picks, they paid the price they're willing to pay. Because it can be very hard to get some of these bottles, and many people are going to these events looking for like a celebration bottle or something that they really, really want, or they've never seen before, right? So this is one of the things that is cool about this event. And like I said, it's invite only, so don't go barraging them or anything like that. Please, please, please be really nice. Go try their store picks. Their store picks are phenomenal. The people who do the picking have great palates, and they bring back a lot of really cool stuff. So I have the list, and we notated, me and a friend who were present, tried to keep the best track we could of the pick order. He kept track of the pick order. I was trying to help all the other people present, because one other cool thing that they do is they have a little game where they have a whiskey in a decanter, and everybody gets a tiny little sample, and you have to try and guess exactly which whiskey is in that pour. And if you do, as long as you're not in the first 5 picks, you get 2 picks. And then another cool thing they do is the last 2 people who get 2 picks, starting with the last person. So if you're, I think they invited 34 people to this, and not all 34 showed up. Some people just couldn't make it, but they got to pick something off of the list after the event. So they were basically given, here's what's left on the list. We draw you at random, and then you get to pick one thing. So the very last person gets to pick twice, and then the person before them, the second to last, gets to have another pick again. So that they each get 2 picks, and whoever can guess the bottle that was in the little sample pour also gets a pick, which is really, really cool. I think that's a cool, fun way to let everybody, like, one, we're all there, we're all chatting, we're having a little fun, we're all kind of sipping it. A lot of people are kind of going, oh, I kind of taste this, it kind of tastes like this. And you start paying attention to, as each person comes up and makes their guess, what they've been guessing, and the staff kind of like gives you little clues as we get further and further along. They're kind of like, oh yeah, you're close, or like, oh yeah, no, not anything by that. And eventually you get toward the end, or when they get, it was about the middle, I think, when somebody actually got it right, they'll get kind of like, no, it's not that distillery, right? They'll start helping you carve out and figure out things, so it becomes easier and easier. So let me start first with the thing they were pouring and what I thought about it. When I drank this blind, and I immediately picked up, it had what I consider like the Heaven Hill nuttiness to it. My dog is whining her brains out. I'm really sorry if you hear that in the background. So I was trying to zero in. I was pretty sure it wasn't an Elijah Craig, although they had a brand new Elijah Craig pick that they were debuting at this event, and it was the first chance for people to buy some. It had something to it that made me think it was a different mash bill. So I was trying to rack my brain, and I couldn't really figure out whether it was that, or maybe it was just a really nicely picked Heaven Hill 7-year bottle and bond, which is another pick that they'd recently had. So I kind of guessed it's the Heaven Hill 7-year bottle and bond, because I was just like, well, it's got that big kind of nutty note to it, and it definitely tastes kind of Heaven Hilly, but it doesn't taste like Elijah Craig, and there's no way this is an Old Fitz, right? It was there's no way they cracked an Old Fitz and put that in there. Funny story, it's not an Old Fitz, but it was Rebel 10-year, which, for those who are in the know, that is sourced the wheated mash bill of Heaven Hill. It's sourced basically Old Fitz juice. So me going, there's no way it's Heaven Hill, or there's no way it's Old Fitzgerald, right? It was like, actually kind of was. And the person who got it, I think they were like the 20, I think they were in the 20s for their pick. So anyway, let's go down the pick list. Here's the things that I thought were the most interesting if I had gotten an early pick. There was the Pappy 15, of course. The Pappy Van Winkle 15-year is one of the most highly sought-after bourbons in the entire bourbon market. After that, my personal favorite is William LaRue Weller. And of the things that were priced, it actually had one of the more reasonable. It was not full secondary. It was closer to like 2/3 of secondary value. Same with the Pappy. The Pappy was basically like half secondary value. So those were the two that I thought, like, if you were looking purely on value and how hard they are to acquire, at least in my experience, those were some of the best values. And then there was a few others. So pick number 1 was the Pappy 15-year. Who'd have thought, right? It's like pretty obvious. Pick number 2 was the Pappy 23. Pick number 3 was the 12-year. So that's the Lot B, the Van Winkle Family Reserve, which is another like super popular. Number 4 was interesting. This was a 2020 Old Forester birthday bourbon, and the guy who was there specifically wanted a 12-year. He didn't care about the proof as much because they had a 2020 and a 2024, and he cared about the one being older. So he went for the 2020 birthday bourbon, and he was getting it specifically for a gift for a friend, which I thought was really, really cool. Apparently this friend had never had a birthday bourbon and wanted to get a slightly older one, so he was getting that for a friend. Super nice. Number 5 was the Old Rip 10-year. Pappy 10, some people will call it. Some people get very angry if you call it Pappy. But again, this was like about 2/3 secondary price, so it was pretty reasonably priced in the grand scheme of things compared to where you would have to find it otherwise. Pick number 6 was the 20-year Pappy. Noticing a pattern? So far, the outlier has been the Old Forester birthday bourbon. Pick number 7 was William LaRue Weller, one of my personal favorites. And at this point, I was sitting there going, well, okay, there's a lot of really good options, though, still there that I haven't found yet, or are some of my favorite bottles from the previous year. And if one happens to be lying around, maybe I'll get lucky and pick that up. Pick number 8 was interesting. This person kind of went off what most people would consider like the usual picks at this point and picked the Russell's Reserve Camp Nelson B single rick house. That was not me, by the way. Even though I have one, I got one like literally the same day in a trade with a local, which is how I got mine. But I had actually been looking at that bottle up until I had like basically confirmed with a local that like, hey, he had one for trade and I could get it. So kind of was like, good, somebody got that and is going to enjoy it because it's really, really good. Number 9. This was a big boy. Michter's 20-year bourbon, the 2024 release. My friend who I was there with had been talking to me and saying, like, I'm worried if I get picked because I'm about to hit my 20-year anniversary at work, and I do want a Michter's 20 to be that celebration. It's not necessarily at the price I want to pay for it, but if it's there, I might take it. And somebody grabbed it right before him, and he was kind of like, whew. He was like actually very happy it got picked so that he didn't have to end up have to. I put this in quotation marks, have to buy it. Number 10 was the Parker's Heritage Double Barrel Blend. This is another person that I know who I was there chatting with, and we had been talking back and forth about the couple of things that we thought were the best picks available at the time, and he was kind of struggling between Russell's 15 and the Parker's, but for him he chose the Parker's because it's one he has never had, and it's, you know, really well known. It's a phenomenal whiskey. So he picked that. I told him I was super jealous and congrats and, you know, all that kind of stuff, because it was the other one I was kind of eyeing at that point. It was like number 3 on my list, other than the Pappy 15 or the William Blue Weller, was that. And I know that might sound weird, but I go on flavor, and I've had it. It's so good. Pick number 11, Russell's Reserve 15 year. Was jealous of this person because I watched it get picked, and I was like, I want that one. So pick number 12 comes up, and my friend who had been sitting there talking about, who was talking about his 20th anniversary, gets called. And he is very lucky to have a majority of the BTAC, but the one that he did not have was a Sazerac 18, so that's what he picked. He got the Sazerac 18 year to kind of complete his BTAC throughout multiple years, but very happy for him. He got a really cool bottle. Pick number 13. This person walked up and specifically said that the bottles they wanted were too expensive. And they had kind of a budget, and they picked Stag 23A. There were a number of different Stags there. And more of the Stags got picked, but they were later to where I didn't keep track of them anymore. Or my friend, rather, between the two of us, we didn't keep track. But most of the Stag got picked up. But that was the one that was higher up than most people would probably expect, but still very valued. Number 14, George T. Stag 2024. Super popular whiskey. A lot of people have said it's one of the best whiskeys, if not the best whiskey of last year, so made a lot of sense. Pick number 15 comes up. I get called. Feeling good. Now, I had lots of options. You saw that table, right? And here's some of the things I was looking at. They had a Four Roses 2024 limited edition, and I'm a fan of Four Roses, and I don't have very many of the LEs. I only have one. So I thought about getting the 2024 because I had not had it. There was a Jack Daniel's Coy Hill up there. I thought about getting that, but I already had one at home that I haven't opened yet, and I was kind of like, well, I don't need two. I think I only need one. There was a couple Old Fitzgeralds. There was an Old Fitz 19, and I've had that at a friend's house. It was delicious, but it was kind of a little bit out of the budget I wanted to spend, unless I was getting like a really, big BTAC or Pappy level bottle. So the good news was, for me, there were 2 Russell's 15s. So that's what I brought home. Russell's 15 for basically MSRP, which is very hard to find, and it was very nice that it was at that price. This is one of my favorite bottles. I felt it was the best whiskey I tried in 2024. This is my open back here, so being able to have a backup was super, super nice, because that's already about half, and I have effectively stopped drinking it because I'm worried about drinking through all of it. It's just super good, and maybe I'll go back to it a little more now that I have a backup. So we'll get through the last couple of picks pretty quickly, and then I want to talk very briefly. So after pick 15, which was me, I did not guess it right, of course. I mentioned that earlier. So pick 16 was the 2024 Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. Pick 17 was the Pappy Van Winkle Rye, so the 13-year rye. Pick 18 was the Michter's 10-year bourbon. Pick 19 was the Thomas H. Handy. Pick 20 was Old Forester 1924, which we all kind of thought that was interesting. And then at pick 21, here's the person who guessed the correct Rebel 10-year, and they picked up the Heaven Hill 20-year corn whiskey and the Old Fitz 19. Friendly Heaven Hill person, they picked up 2 different ones. At number 22 was a Heaven Hill 18. 23 was the 2024 E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof, which we've recently reviewed on the channel. It's up in the corner now if you want to check that out for 2 Minute Tuesday. 24 was the Parker's Heritage 10-year rye, which is also a phenomenal bottle if you're a rye fan. 25 was the Old Fitzgerald 11-year from 2021, so a little bit older Old Fitzgeralds hanging around. And then that's kind of where we stopped keeping track. Oh, no, sorry, 26. We noted this one because this was a very expensive bottle. 26 was the Four Roses Al Young 50th anniversary. those are Spendy Boys. It was released in 2017, so it's a little older whiskey too. It's not exactly easy to find. And that's kind of the last one we kept track of at that point. There was a lot of stuff like I know the Coy Hill got taken, one of the Four Roses Limiteds got taken, several of the Stags were picked up. I know the person who was in last place that was present picked up like an E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof and a Stag. I remember that specifically. So they got two, one person, I think the second to last got like a straight from the barrel Blanton's, and I think also a Stag. So lots of people were getting really great whiskey, and there are still plenty of leftovers that will eventually just go out on the shelf there at their store. So really, really cool. We'll set that aside for a second. And one thing I just want to talk about briefly is I love events like this. I think doing raffles and making some of this allocated stuff more available to people is really cool. They do it as a way to reward some of their customers, whether you're a customer like me, who I go in all the time. I bring samples to the manager just because like we'll talk about stuff that he's interested in, or like maybe he hasn't had a chance to try, and if I happen to own it, I bring in a sample for him because I want him to try it. Because he has a phenomenal palate. He picks a lot of cool picks, and almost every time I'm in there, like he's like, "Oh, you got to try this. You got to try this." They have a small sample bar. They let me try little things every once in a while, or we'll just sit and talk for a while sometimes. And it's just fun, and I love their staff. I think they're doing a lot of cool stuff, especially for being a store in Washington where many of them just don't do that kind of stuff. It's unfortunate. There are some great ones, and there are a lot of not great ones. Let's put it that way. So anyway, if you were at the lottery and you had first pick and you saw that video, I'll show it one more time. Let you see it while I'm talking. What would be your number one pick? Would you pick the Pappy? Would you pick something completely different? Maybe there's something in there that's more interesting or intriguing to you. What do you think about me getting a Russell's 15 at pick 15? Kind of some kismet, if you will, right? Kind of sweet. But yeah, I was super happy. There were a lot of people who audibly groaned when I picked the second Russell's 15. At pick 15 because they were hoping that it would keep sliding down farther in the list and they'd get a chance at it. But it was legitimately probably my favorite, my top whiskey. That and the Murray Hill Club special release are very, very close to each other. They're just very different whiskeys. So they were my two favorites of 2024 of all the stuff that I've either owned or had an opportunity to try. And yeah, I just had a blast. So let me know in the comments down below which one's going to be your first pick. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. Consider subscribing if you're not a subscriber. I do all sorts of weekly tasting notes, and we'll do some other videos like this, including some upcoming potential bourbon hunts as well. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.